I'm Nathan Berry. I own Valhalla Contracting and Home Services.
My name is Otis Shetler. I'm the owner of Drywall Repair Pros LLC.
So my name is Daniel Meza. I own a business called Phoenix Central Home Services.
My name is John Sherman. My name of my business is Affordable Handyman and Hauling.
My name's Mike Neal. I run a handyman business, The Humble Handyman.
Hi, I'm John Floyd.
My name is Joseph Vecchio. I'm 17 years old.
My name is Brittany. I own a business called The Humble Homemaker.
So my name is Dan Vecchio. I'm Joseph's dad.
My name's Luke Maines. I'm from Murray, Utah.
Yeah, Ray, my name is Greg Schwan.
Yeah, sure. My name is Ben Alexander, and I started a handyman company there about 6 years ago called Handyman Services.
My name's Kelly Regouby. Actually, we live in Oklahoma.
My name is, first of all, Josue Navarrete, right? I was born and raised in California.
My name is Britton, Crawford Contracting.
My name is Adrian Moeller, owner of HMI Pros.
My name's Robbie, owner of RobertOwensHandyman.com.
I'm Elijah Hudson. I'm the helper.
My name is Bob Belts, Belts Concrete and Home Solutions.
My name's Jerry, Suburban Specialties.
My name is Matthew Richards, full service handyman, Dayton, Ohio.
My name is Troy. I run the Denton Handyman.
And then we have Mr. Kelly Regouby. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing pretty good, brother. How you doing?
So I haven't seen you since the cabin stay weekend that we did a while back. It was like February, wasn't it? It was still cold.
I don't remember when it was, but it's been too long, brother. Been too long.
Yeah, it's close to a year.
Yeah.
So how's your business been going since then? We're gonna dive into your history too, but how's it been going since the last time I saw you?
We went from doing like complete huge bathroom remodels and these big remodel jobs to doing more of the handyman, property management type stuff, in and out type jobs. And of course, I'll get into that here in a little bit, but it took us a while to transition. But once we transitioned, I actually make more money doing the little jobs than I did the big jobs. And I get home at a decent hour. I have the weekend, or I have Saturday off, and so I get to spend a little bit more time here at the house and still make a little bit more money than I used to make. So I'm liking it.
That's awesome. So, gotta decide. Yeah, we'll come to the transition later. Let's go back in time, and I'd like you to just tell me sort of where you picked up your skills at, and what, whether it be life events or life experiences. What happened that ultimately led you into having a handyman business?
Yeah, I saw a meme the other day. It says, how did you learn all these skills? And then the response was, I grew up really poor. And so that's kind of where I'm at.
That's where I learned mine.
I grew up poor. My dad, he fixed everything. He, everything around the house, the vehicles, you name it. He, lawnmowers, whatever. He fixed it. And I would always hang around. Me and my brothers would hang around and learn stuff. And so really, I attest everything that I've learned to this point to my dad. So, in fact, on my website in the biography or that biography part, I actually mention him in there and say everything I learned I owe to my dad. So, as time, I've always been one that's like, I'm not afraid to get in there and figure it out. A story that I share with people is way back in the day, I used to be a network administrator, and when I left that side of the business, I was responsible probably for about 4,700 computers. When I started that job, I barely knew how to run Windows. I barely knew that much about computers, and I've never networked a single server, never networked a single printer or set up emails. But I convinced the guys to hire me and kind of BS my way through it. And of course, back then they didn't have Google or YouTube videos, but I'd get on the internet and figure out, how do you set up an email server? How do you do this? And then I took some classes, and like I said, within a year, I was doing probably about 500 or more computers. And then when I left there, I was doing probably about 4,700 computers in 3 different states. So
man, that's crazy.
I've had some crazy jobs, but I don't like being stuck behind a desk. I don't like working for the man. I've been one of those people that I want to have a job that I love going to work to every day.
Yeah.
So never, not really any formal training. Everything I learned, I just learned by getting my hands dirty, or I learned from my dad, or just figuring it out. Or now, I couldn't tell you how many times I go to YouTube and watch a YouTube video, figure out how to do something. But
always.
Yeah.
I tell people all the time, man, you could pick a year and make and model of car. You could say like a 1982 Ford Taurus SE, with this specific engine. How do I change the alternator on that? And somewhere on YouTube is going to be like 3 different guys will have done a video for that exact year, that exact make and model, like every detail, the exact same car, and there will be 3 different videos just on changing that alternator.
Oh yeah, I've
It's
done that
all out there for us.
I've done that many times with my GMC truck. How to fix the computer screen, how to do the radio. Yeah, there's plenty of videos that tell you step by step how to do it, and so we're lucky to have YouTube. And Google.
I agree. So what led you into having a handyman business?
Well, that's the $1 million question. It started back in 2013. I was working for a law firm, and I did workers' comp. And I mean, I absolutely loved that. I was helping people. People get hurt on the job and things like that. And I absolutely loved my job. But then in 2013, here in Oklahoma, the laws had changed, and there was no reason to have a workers' comp attorney, so you get what you get, and there was no, unless you wanted somebody just to handle your paperwork, there was no need for an attorney. And so I left that business, and then I was kind of, I don't know, maybe going through a midlife crisis, like what do I want to be when I grow up type deal. And I tried several jobs after that. And then, the one job I had was with this high-end electronics store that sold state-of-the-art, sound systems, and they set them up for you. And I mean, like, the kind where one speaker is $60,000, or, so it was a really high-end store. And, I'd sell the product, and, set it up where people would go in and get it installed in their house, And so while I was working there, but before that, after I left the law firm, I went and did a federal job. I worked for the government. My daughter worked for the government. She said, "You got to get you a federal job, man. That's once you get a federal job, you're set." And so I ended up getting a federal job, and I absolutely hated that job. I was so micromanaged, and so people browbeating you and trying to talk over you and talk above you, and I hated the job, hated every aspect of that job, and I was so miserable. So when I got hurt. So I was on like a temporary workers' comp thing. And one of the customers I had back when I worked at the electronics store said, "Hey, I need you to come over and set up my Apple TV," or whatever it was. I mean, it was a simple thing. And this lady was like 87 years old. And so I went over there, and I'd visit with her, and I'd help her. And then she started calling me all the time. And then while I was over there doing electronic stuff, then she would tell me these horror stories of how like a handyman would come in and charge her a ridiculous amount of money to do crappy work, paint her fence or fix something in the house. And then she because she was such a kind person, that then they'd say, "Oh, I got medical bills," or this. And next thing you know, she's loaning them or giving them $5,000 and giving them money.
Yeah.
And I was like, I just saw several examples of people taking advantage of her. And so finally, I told, and her name was Noma. I really do credit her for me getting started on this business. And I was like, "Noma," I said, you got to quit letting people take advantage of you. I said, "Why don't you let me be your, general contractor, And if you need somebody to do whatever at your house, let them go through me. You know, I'll vet them out. I'll hire them. I'll negotiate money prices with them, and because I'm tired of, you know, people taking advantage of you. And so I did that. I mean, anywhere from who was mowing their yard to who was painting their fence, you know, and painting the house. So everything went through me at that point. She had a Florida room built in her backyard, a lot of landscaping. I mean, everything went through me. And then fast forward, trying to make a long story short, is she goes, you know, you're really good at all this stuff. Why don't you do this for a living? I know you hate your job. Why don't you do this? I'm like, yeah, no, Ma, I'll do that. I'll get it. I'll get into it. And, you know, and then I finally, to appease her, I created a business card. And she goes, well, when are you going to start doing the business? When are you going to start doing the business? Oh, I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking about it. And then one day she said, you know what? You're obviously not serious about starting this business. So you obviously don't want it. So I'm going to just quit talking to you about it. And I'm like, no, Ma, I really want to do this. I'm scared, you know? And so an opportunity came up where I had income coming in, and I was able to kind of start this handyman business. And but I didn't have to rely on it for my sole income, you know. So it was like if I had 1 or 2 jobs a week, you know, I was fine because I had other money coming in. And then I started doing it, and you know, I was like, man, I really like doing this. I really like doing this kind of work. You know, I feel like some people are I enjoy helping people. That's what in fact, one of my customers asked me, what is your favorite part of your job? And I'm like, helping people. It doesn't matter what I'm doing. As long as I'm helping somebody, I'm happy. Yeah. And so, then I got to a place where I was like, I was getting busy enough that I was like, man, I should do this full time. And so I took a leap of faith and started, you know, making it my sole income, and, you know, got the word out. Most of my business came from word of mouth at that point. And then the other blessing was, and of course, I'm sure we'll talk about this later, was my wife. She was in this business group called BNI. It's, you know, Business Networking International. Well, when she was part of that group, they have seats, and her seat was like nonprofit, right? And then the nonprofit that she was working with, they you know, is the end of the contract, and so she was not going to be able to be a member of this BNI group anymore. And she had been there for a year, built up a great rapport, built up a friendship with all these BNI people. And so I said, well, how about if you represent my company? You know, why don't you go in there and represent, you know, Solutions by Regouby Designs, and that way you get to hang out with your friends at once a week, you know. There was no hidden agenda. I never expected anything to come of it. I was just doing that so my wife could hang out with her friends on a weekly basis. And, you know, I paid the fees. You know, of course, every year I gripe about how much the fees cost, but I paid the fees. And within the very first year that we joined, within 4 days of joining, I had return on investment 100%. Yeah. The first year that I was there, the ROI was probably, I forget what she said, like 300,000% or something. You know, I spent that first year anywhere from, you know, $500 to $800, and, you know, I probably just by BNI referrals by themselves, that first year I probably did, you know, $50,000, $60,000. And so every year, you know, like I said, I complain about having to pay those yearly fees. But every year, you know, we do it, and we look at, you know, return on investment, and I'd say about 85% of my business is from some way related to a BNI, whether it be a referral of a referral of a referral, but
it all traces back to those original BNI referrals.
Yeah, yep. And so I credit BNI to be what has helped my business. The only money I spend on advertising is I have a website. It's www.regoubydesigns.com. I probably need to update it because I haven't been on there in a while. I pay somebody to take care of that for me, and we pay our yearly fees for B&I. Other than that, I don't really spend any money on advertising. It's been word of mouth, and the word gets out. And so I went from taking every job that I could to now I get to pick and choose who I want. And I also remember the very first job I did with B&I did it for a roofer, and it was to replace a door. And it was an external door going out from the side of his garage. And he said, well, how much will you charge me to replace that door for my customer? And I was like, $350. And he's like, oh, you got to charge more. And I was like, so how much did you pay for the door? And I was like, $285. And and it's a gas. I said, so basically, I'm paying you $50 to install this door.
Yeah.
And he said, I can't do. I have to pay you more. And he ended up being a real good friend of mine. But he, I think he paid me like $700 or something instead of $350. He said, there's no way you'll survive if you don't charge more. Now, of course, I probably charge. $1,500 to $1,700 in labor plus the cost of a door to do the exact same job. So I've gotten smarter about how to charge people and knowing my worth and the quality of my work. I mean, because the bad thing about here in Oklahoma, I live in Edmond, Oklahoma City area. If you looked just in the Oklahoma City area, there's like 952 handymen out there, and those are just the ones that are legit. There's probably 400 or 500 that do it, pay them under the table.
Oh yeah. Those are just the ones that have a Google business page.
Yeah. So I gotta find a way to set myself apart from all these other people. So I do it just from the quality of my work. The biggest thing that we tell people is, or customers will say to us is, you show up. You return my phone call and you show up to work. And I've had
You're not even drunk when you get there or anything.
Yeah. So so just the fact that we show up to a job is already working in our benefit, because the other 3 handyman that they hired never showed up or showed crazy. Up, took a look at it and never called them back. So
told them they were going to run to Home Depot real quick and then just never came back.
Yep. So one thing. And the other thing is, I tell people now is because I'm not, my clients call me an elite handyman. I'm not just a handyman. I'm an elite handyman. And I tell every customer I tell is like, look, I'm not going to be the cheapest in town. I guarantee you will find a whole shit ton of people out there that will do it for a lot less than me. I said, but nobody will do a better job for you than me. And you get what you pay for. So
there you go.
Anyways, I feel like I'm talking too much, brother.
No, not at all. I want to hear everybody already knows about me, so I want to hear about you. Before we move forward, what were we going to say?
Oh, no, go ahead. Go ahead, brother.
I'm curious only because you're literally on another interview that I just did a few days ago. Somebody else was mentioning BNI, and they talked about that it was expensive to get into, but they credited BNI also. Not with like all of their business, but basically said, getting into BNI ended up being a really great thing. Got tons of referrals. It gave me a jump start with my business. And I didn't dive too deep, but as soon as you said it again, I realized I need to know more about BNI, and maybe I'll do a standalone video after I do some research. But can you tell me, for somebody who knows nothing about it, tell me what BNI is and how it works.
This is BNI in a nutshell. The BNI is worldwide. It's not just Oklahoma or even the United States. It's a worldwide international organization where they have all these business owners. They meet on a weekly basis and they use each other as a networking, as a referral base. So in my group, and actually I'm not technically, my wife is a member. So if I show up, I'm a visitor, but she represents the business. But they have lawyers, several different kind of lawyers. They have 2 different kind of roofers, residential and commercial. They have a plumber, electrician, landscape, most, all the trades, if you're in the trade, like a plumber, electrician, handyman, roofer, B&I is where the money's at, because everybody needs a plumber, everybody needs a handyman, and so they mechanics, just any kind of line, you have to be an LLC, you have to be a legit business, and they all meet on a weekly basis, and they talk. They give it a really short presentation on what their business is and maybe what their needs are for the week, and then they go around the table. And I mean, a B&I group can be 2 people, it can be 50 people, and they just meet on a weekly basis, and they use each other. So, like, do you need an accountant? Hey, I know an accountant that's in the group. Or, I'm looking for an accountant. Hey, I know an accountant. Or I need a chiropractor. Or hey, I need a good plumber that I can use. And we just use each other as a referral base. As it's absolutely in the name, networking. That's what we're doing. We're networking. And on the bigger towns, there's probably, like in Oklahoma City area, there's probably, I have no idea. There's probably 15 B&I groups. Whatever part of town you're in, there's a B&I.
Because they only have one slot per profession, right?
Correct.
Like they're only going to have one handyman or one residential handyman slot.
Yes.
And then maybe they'll have a commercial handyman slot.
Right.
All right, guys, instead of letting YouTube run a bunch of ads against this video, we're going to take a really quick break for me to tell you about how I started using Jobber to run my business 5 years ago, and how they've been foundational to my success. And I mean that I would not have succeeded without that platform. Other than QuickBooks, which I have a link for in the description, by the way, Jobber is the only software you need to run your entire business, from quoting to job tracking to documentation to invoicing and even managing employees and running massive marketing campaigns. Jobber does literally everything you need it to do, and it even comes with a free website for your business. Now, Jobber's sponsorship of this channel is precisely why I'm able to afford to trade in time on the job for time spent serving my handyman community, with the personal guarantee on this channel of no paywalls ever. I do not want your money. The best way you can support this is to click on that link in the description for a free trial and let Jobber know that you decided to check them out because they support our channel and our community. If it's not right for you, do not buy it, and I do mean that. Do not ever purchase anything because I told you to, but please do check them out as a way of giving back. And if it turns out that you do think they're the best product and the best fit for your business, then go ahead and buy it, and go ahead and enjoy my exclusive ambassador discount of 20% off for the first 6 months. And back to the interview.
Yes. And now, if you're like me, I'm a handyman, and so there's one seat for a handyman, and my wife has that seat. Now, if I wanted to join another chapter in addition to this one, or if let's say I'm just a handyman, I want to join a chapter, well, you have to find a chapter where there's no handyman, because that, conflict of interest, you're kind of fighting against each other.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you're, like I said, there's, they split the roofing into commercial and residential. So you can go somewhere they have a residential roofer, and you can say, well, I'm gonna do the commercial side of roofing. So, but yeah, there's so many chapters here in Oklahoma City that you may have to drive 45 minutes to the other part of town to be in that group. But yeah, there's one seat per trade. But especially in the trades in general, I mean, there's accountants, there's bank managers, but the trades is where it's at, because everybody needs a roofer. I mean, especially here in Oklahoma with the hail and the tornadoes and stuff, you need a general contractor, you need a builder. And so any of those trades, plumbing, electrician, handyman, the business is there. You're going to get the referrals. And now, like you said earlier, the fees. Now, when I started, and this is probably, I don't know, 5+ years ago, I swore that it was like $500. My wife says, no, it was like $850 or something. I'm like, I don't remember, but I remember when I paid those fees. Again, my whole reason for paying those fees is so my wife could hang out with her friends that she's gotten to know over the year, And so the next year, it would come up, and they went up in price. So currently, don't quote me. I think it's about $1,200, maybe a little bit more, but $1,200 a year for a membership. Every year, to be honest with you, I complain. I'm trying to keep it not cuss, but every year I bitch about how much I have to pay for it. And then what we do is we get a report. This is how much, business you've got from referrals. And this is how much you've given in business. So they keep it out. And I mean, I think this year or let's go last year, because the last 12 months, I probably just, Maria's really good at this stuff. I think I'd say, I guarantee you I've gotten at least $80,000 worth of business from the B&I group.
Yeah.
I've also given probably close to $70,000 worth of business to other B&I. I mean, I have a plumber, electrician, and my roofer, my three go-to guys, and I send them business all the time.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is, man, there's so much work out there that you can share. You don't have to try to get every job. And even when I was doing the bathroom remodels, I mean, I would give, if I can't get to that customer in time, I mean, I would give bathroom remodels away. $40,000 remodels. $10,000 remodels. I just I can't keep up.
Yeah.
But the kicker for me is the quality of work that I do is pretty high. And if I'm going to refer you to somebody, they better be to my level or better. And I've used some tile people, and I'm really particular about who I send to my customers. Because they're my customers. I want to make sure they get a good job, because it makes me look bad. If I send you a guy that's going to do your bathroom tiling and he doesn't do a good job, it's going to make me look bad, because I'm the one that convinced you to use them. So getting back, but the B&I mean, if you go online and read about it, or I'm also like on Facebook, I'm a member of like Handyman Facebook groups or whatever. And I've heard people, or I've seen people make comments that, B&I is a scam, or, don't use B&I or whatever. And I'm like, that's not how I feel at all. If you use B&I, if you work it, and, you have to do like what they call one-to-one. So you pick somebody in the group and say, hey, let's meet for coffee. Let's talk about, get to know each other, If you use B&I correctly, man, especially in our line of work, you're going to get the business. So I'd say probably 85% of my business comes from B&I referrals. And so I swear by B&I. I mean, I'm not always crazy about the fees, but return on investment. I spend $1,200 and I make $80,000 without even trying. That's the money well spent, So
yeah, and that's what, weekly meetings? Did you say weekly?
Yeah, like the group that my wife is in, they meet every Thursday, and she gets there like at 7, I think around 7:30, 8 o'clock, and they start the meeting at 8:30. It's probably the meeting itself probably lasts for about an hour, but she also is a coach, and she's also like one of the officers that has a position there, and so she stays after to take care of the admin stuff. And
that explains a lot, because your business is really, I feel like you guys have very tight control over your business. Like, what your business is, what your numbers are, where you're going, what you're doing, which a lot of handymen, not just handymen, just a lot of tradespeople and just small business owners in general are kind of guessing their way through things. And if you work hard enough, that can work. But I've noticed with you and Maria, though, that you really seem to have a sense of your business as being a business that needs to be sort of understood and run.
Yeah. Now, Maria is the business manager. I tell people that, she runs a business. I just go do the grunt work. So, I mean, a good, what do you call it? The software program that you use to run a business. What do you call that?
CRM.
The CRM. Yeah. We use Mark 8, and we've used it for so long that there's other like Jobber or somebody like that's really good and probably maybe even better. But we have just gotten so used to it, and it fits us, and we don't have any issues with it. It works. But a good CRM program is vital to the business. We have an accountant, and we have a bookkeeper.
Yeah, which I think is paramount. Especially my accountant is kind of my bookkeeper, but you got to have an accountant. Everybody's trying to do their own taxes out there, and they think that it's all the same and it doesn't matter and you don't need to pay so much. But man, in my experience,
I was one of those people, man. When we
you?
started this, and Maria, started getting involved with the business. Of course, now it's our business. It's not just my business anymore, but it's our business. And when she started getting involved with it, she's like, "I'm going to pay this accountant this much money. I'm going to pay this book." I was like, "Why? That's so ridiculous." We have QuickBooks. What do you need an accountant for? But when the taxes come due, and you pay them to do your taxes, and when they say, okay, you don't owe any taxes this year, and you're, and you should have, if I'd have done my taxes, I would probably own $10,000,
Yeah, man.
Because
a good accountant is always going to make sure that you keep way more money in your pocket than what you pay them. You might have to, some of them, there was one I was talking to that was one of the ones I started out with. It's like $1,600 a year for like the whole package of what he was providing. And it felt really expensive, but he was saving me like $7,000 to $10,000 a year.
Oh yeah.
He just knew of all of the legal, not illegal, absolutely just legal things to take, just waivers and all sorts of different loopholes and different ways to manage where the money goes and how and when it goes there, that results in you legally owing less in taxes.
Oh yeah. And if I was ever to get audited, I just have to give them their phone number and say, get a hold of my accountant. And I don't have to worry about it because everything is legit, everything's documented, and we don't have to stress about all that stuff, So
and you get to focus on what's important.
Yeah, which is helping people, So, and it's kind of like what you do, because my wife, she's the one that turned me on to you years ago. The way that she convinced me to start watching your podcast and your YouTube videos is because he's got a beard just like yours, and so you're a down to earth guy. You got a beard, So I started watching you. And I'm just like, man, this guy's giving up all the trade secrets, and this guy's telling everybody step by step how to start your business and how to make your business grow. And I was like, you'd be an idiot not to listen to him. And this guy must be doing so good that he's wanting to share that vast array of knowledge with the people that'll sit there and listen to him. Mm-hmm. And that's what I do. I've mentored several handyman, several people that start their own businesses. I'm one of those weird people that I've told customers, I know I can do it, but I know somebody that'll probably do it quicker and do it faster for you and do a better job. So let me hook you up with this other handyman or this other painter. I don't mind painting my repairs, like if I patch holes or something like that, or I'll usually paint a wall, but I don't want to paint a whole house. I have the equipment to do it just because I have purchased equipment to do other jobs. It's just not my thing. I just don't want to paint. But I know a good painter,
and that builds trust.
Yeah. And that's the thing is, the one thing that I go when I go see a customer, and I tell them, this is kind of I'm gonna give you trade secrets here. When I go into a customer's house, I tell them the first thing I do is I pretend like this is my house. I'm not gonna cut corners. I'm not gonna put cheap materials in here and do a halfway job for you, because I'm gonna pretend like this is my house, and I want it done right. I want it done good. I also tell them the other thing I do is I pretend like it's my money. I don't want to spend a lot of money. My wife she'll call me cheap. She'll say I'm cheap, but I'm frugal. you know. But I don't mean I don't want. I only if I'm going to pay for a bathroom remodel and I'm going to pay quite a bit of money, I don't want to have to pay for it again 3 years from now. So I see the value in paying a little bit more for something to get it done right. But I also tell people that if I'm not really good at it and I don't know what I'm doing, I'm going to connect you with somebody that does, because you will never be my guinea pig. If I can't give you an amazing job, then I'm not going to do it. And so that's why I refer plumbers, electricians, painters. I've referred them out to other handyman service.
Yeah.
One thing that, and I never subcontract. I never say, hey, I'm gonna bring in this guy and I'm gonna charge you an extra 20% off the top so I can get paid for it. I don't do that. I just say, hey, I'm gonna hook you up with this electrician. You pay him, and he'll bill you personally. You pay him, and we're all good. And the main reason is because Maria says she don't want to have to deal with all the taxes and all the technical paperwork for it. So let's just give it to somebody.
Yeah.
And kind of like when I did the transition, when I went from doing huge remodels to doing the rental properties and stuff, we just came home one day and I said, we're done. I'm done doing these jobs. It was physically taking a toll on me. It was hard. And I'm just a one-man person. And, some people can go in there with a crew and have a bathroom redone in a matter of weeks, 2 or 3 weeks. Well, it takes me 5 or 6 weeks. And when I'm doing these huge bathroom remodels, I can't do anything else. So if you called me and said, hey, Kelly, I need you to go and put a fan, I can do it in a month and a half from now, but I can't do you today. And I had a lot of people that I'd have to tell no because I was too busy doing these bathroom remodels. And I felt like I wasn't helping people.
Yeah.
And so I remember when I came home and said, I'm done. I mean, the very first month is I had probably I had like 3 different bathroom remodels. It was about $140,000, $150,000 worth of bathroom remodels. And I had, in the past, I had referred this guy that was getting ready to sell his house and move out of state. I couldn't do his bathroom remodel and quick enough for him, so he hired somebody else. And when I went back to do other jobs for him, I said, hey, let me see your bathroom. And I was very impressed with the quality of work. So I said, what's his name, if you don't mind me asking? So I've never met this guy. His name's Jorge. And I would send him business, bam, bam, bam. I'd send him business left and right. I've never met him. It was a son and a dad team. I seen the quality of the work, and the customer was very happy with them. So I said, hey, if I ever need somebody to do a bathroom remodel, I'd send it to him. And then once we started sending them, like I said, that 1 month I sent them $140,000, $150,000 worth of jobs. I was telling my wife, hey, I just want to meet him for coffee. I need to put a face with a name. I've never met him, never met his son. I just know him by name and got his phone number. So the long story short is he never, I get people are busy, but he never took the time to meet us. And I'm like, I'm not going to keep sending you all this. I'm like handing you business.
Yeah.
And if you can't take the time out of your schedule to meet me, I don't expect a thank you. I really don't even expect a follow up. Say, hey, I got the business. But I wanted to meet you and say, hey, I have enough business coming in that I can make you and your son very successful. All you got to do is meet me for coffee.
Yeah.
And he couldn't do it. So
you just want to know who it is that you're referring everybody to.
Yeah. And so I quit using them. I started using somebody else, but yeah, I want to, even if I don't do the job, those are my customers, and I always tell them, and I've also told customers this before, that even when I don't get the business, I was like, look, I know people. I vetted them. I've seen their work. If you ever need anything, if you're new to town and I don't want you going Googling handyman near me or painter near me. If you need something, you call me and I'll send you a name. If I can't do it, and if I can't do an amazing job for you, I know somebody that can. And that by itself has given me so many customers for life. I don't do every single job for them, but they know that I'm going to send them good people that do good work, and I'm going to take care of them. And so I get, usually my customers turn into lifetime customers. I'm doing that thing where I talk too much again. Sorry.
No, sir. No, you're not. It's makes my job easier because my job is to listen and ask the right follow-up questions to get a sense of everything. So
yeah,
I'm very happy when you add on all of your stories. I go, oh, good. I don't have to prompt any of that. You're doing my job for me.
I love what I do. I really love my job. I love helping.
And I can feel that comes through.
And in fact, when I first started this, I was working like today. I told you I was working the land. It was for a friend, a friend of mine. I go out there and work their land for them, and I've known them for 15 years. They started off as friends, and now they're one of my favorite clients. But I'll go out and work their land, and I'll clear trees and cut trees down. And so I posted a picture of me drenched with sweat. My arms were all cut up and bloody. And I said, never have I worked so hard and been so tired in my whole entire life, but I love what I do. And sometimes it's rough on your body. Sometimes it's like, I can't believe I get paid to do this,
Yeah.
But I look forward to going to work every day.
Yeah.
I don't work for Uncle Sam, or I don't work for some browbeaten micromanager. If something comes up, my son has something to do. I run it through Maria, and I take the day off. So
yeah.
Anyway,
one of my favorite things used to be when I was really deep into 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, literally nonstop, like one day off a month. When I was doing that, man, some of my favorite days were the days where I did and we're going to get into, because you've started doing some of these smaller jobs now,
right,
which can get really profitable. And some of my favorite days were the days when I could go knock out like 6 or 7 or 8 of those little small jobs in one day. And it's an early start and it's a late end. But man, I swear I'd walk in that door just like this, just like, oh yeah, who knocked it all out today? Who finished up 7 different work orders today, back to back to back, had the right inventory, the right tooling, the right skills, made the right decisions, got to scheduled it all tightly enough to make it all fit, predicted how long it would take, showed up on time, knocked it out, and made $1,000 today. This guy.
Yeah, and didn't break a sweat.
Yeah, and you're tired. Your body is, not in great shape at the end of that day, but mentally just feel amazing after doing that.
Yeah. And because this one client that I did today, where I worked the land, and I'm hard labor for about 3 days, but my wife, and this customer, like I said, they're a friend. They've been a client of her, and her husband have been my clients for several years. When I do their jobs, I don't make a whole lot of money. I usually charge them about $800 a day, and I'll spend anywhere from 5 to 10 hours doing it. But it's physical labor. But my wife says, you got to quit doing that. And I was like, yeah, but I love it. I love working the land. That's my therapy. I don't want to work that hard every day, and I won't do that kind of work for anybody else, but just this particular customer. And I said, but man, I get into my zone, nothing around, the horses are watching me out there, cutting up trees or whatever it is I'm doing, mowing 10 acres or whatever I'm doing. And it's just like, I don't think about anything else. I don't think about what bills I owe, or how many jobs I got lined out, or if I'm going to be able to afford to go on a trip or whatever. I'm out there focused on whatever I'm doing. So like I said, I kid you not. I love my job. I love what I do.
I can tell. Well, let's dive into your transition, because of course, you were doing, when you met me, you were telling me that you were doing mostly bathroom remodels, stuff too, but larger jobs similar to bathroom remodels in size. So I guess just tell me about how and why you were transitioning, and tell me about the actual process of transitioning, how that's gone, how it's
Yeah.
still going, what steps you took, especially any road bumps that you came upon, challenges you had to solve would be pretty useful. But just tell me that story about transitioning over.
Yeah, and when and I've had when I was doing bathroom remodels, that was my bread. That was my bread and butter. You get paid. Do a bathroom remodel that's $15,000. That's a month's worth of work for me. And so I really liked doing the jobs, and sometimes it depended on how far away the job was. If it was real close to me, or one job, it takes me an hour to get there every day. But when so when I would get these jobs and say, "Oh, this one's a $20,000 bathroom remodel. This is a $30,000. This is a $5,000 one." All I would see at the time would see dollar signs. But then what we started adding up, how many hours I physically put in, and because I'm such a perfectionist that I work a little bit slower than somebody else that comes in here and knocks them out, but the quality of my work, and like I said, my bathroom's a lifetime guarantee. All my other stuff is like I warranty my work for a year, except for my bathrooms, and I will lifetime warranty those things because I guarantee you that unless you want to change how it looks, that thing will never leak. And I took a lot of pride in it, so it was the one thing that I was really, really good at. But man, it was hard on my body. My knees would be wore out from grouting all day. My shoulders, would hurt. So, like you said, I'd come home broken every evening. And I was like, man, I can't do this. I currently have both of my rotators are so jacked up. I know I need rotator cuff surgery, but what I tell my wife is I can't do it because if I go get a surgery, then I'm going to be out of work for 3, 4, 5 months. And my insurance, they basically will pay what my wage is, not what the company makes.
Yeah.
So, they will only pay for my wage, which I got good insurance, and they'll get, I'll get 100% of my wages, but I don't live
Now,
off
are you an S corp?
Oh God, C corp or S corp? I can't remember.
Okay, but you give yourself a quote unquote fair salary.
Yeah,
and anything above that comes to you as a distribution out of the business's profits.
Right.
So
yeah, I think it is.
Your disability is probably like if you had to use temporary disability for a surgery, then you wouldn't be getting the full amount that you're making through the company. You'd only be getting that fair salary that you pay yourself. Yeah.
Right.
That makes sense. Which is a significant pay cut.
Yes. So I'm just not in a place where I can do that. So if I can't do that, then I just need to not work as hard, And so we put pencil to paper, and it's like, okay, so if I do this, this is how much I spend on materials. This is how much I spend driving back and forth to said location. I can't, like I said, when I'm doing these big remodels, I can't do anything else. I can't do the little jobs. So there's a lot of times when my customers are like, man, hey, I can, if you can wait a month and a half, I can do it, or I'd have to do it, or I'd have to work till 9 or 10 o'clock at night,
Yeah.
And so when we all figured it up, and after putting everything down on paper, we averaged it out, and I was probably making.
All right, guys, instead of letting YouTube run their ads here, how about I do my own? So here we go. My handyman business has been insured by Next Insurance for nearly 5 years now because they are the best in the trades. These guys understand our business, and they've tailored their coverage for our business. If you own a handyman business, you absolutely must have at least general liability coverage. Now, Next Insurance isn't just my business's insurance carrier. They're also a longtime and loyal sponsor of this channel and of our community, including sponsoring multiple campouts and cabin stay weekends that they paid for, and they make it possible for me to do everything that I do for y'all without paywalls. Do yourself a favor and click on that link in the description and get yourself a quote. If it's not right for you, then don't purchase it, and I do mean that. I don't ever want y'all buying anything simply because of me, but I will ask you as a personal favor to take 5 minutes out to just check them out, get a quote, and let them know that you gave them your consideration because of their support for my channel, and our community. That's Next Insurance, and the link is in the description. Now back to the show.
Some jobs I was making $20 an hour. I'm getting paid $20,000 to do this bathroom job, but when everything's said and done, I'm making $20, $40 an hour. And I was like, man, I might as well go back to work for the man for that.
Yeah, for $20 an hour. My McDonald's right over here will pay you $24.50.
And I so that really big paycheck of doing this big nice bathroom remodels, it quickly lost its glitter. I said, man, if I do a job where I'm replacing 4 ceiling fans a day, that's $800, And so, like I said, we came home, we didn't have a nest egg. We didn't have money put in the bank for the transition. I just came home and said, all right, this is the day we're not doing any more bathroom remodels.
So how long ago was that?
Oh, that was probably, Maria's not here. I'd ask her. It's been over a year now.
Okay.
It's probably been about a year and 3 months.
Okay.
So I think.
And when you said no more bathroom remodels, really what you meant was no more really large jobs.
Right, exactly.
Like you're not going to say no more bathroom and then start doing kitchen remodels or converting garages into bedrooms.
Yeah,
you
if
said
it takes
no
several weeks to do this job, if it's a several week type job, I'll give it to somebody else. I don't want it. If like I said, most of my job, the longest I have a job for now is probably the longest would be 3.5 days, maybe 3 or 4 days. But like most of my jobs are in and out type jobs, and like you said, I can do multiple jobs in one day, and so probably for about a 3 or 4 month period. I mean, we just we dropped. We have a budget, and I don't know if numbers are important, but I think just to break even every month, I think we have to make like $12,000 a month just to pay for our overhead, just to break even.
Yeah.
So if I have a good, if I have a month where I'm making $9,000, well, I mean, if you'd asked me that 4 or 5 years ago, and you make $9,000 a month, I mean, like I'm the richest man on the planet. I've never made this much money, but now I have to make $12,000 a month just to break even. So if I have a $9,000 month, that means I'm in the red $3,000. And I don't have enough money to pay all my bills. And so we did that for about 3 or 4 months, and in fact, there was a couple times where I was like, well, maybe I need to throw in a bathroom remodel every once in a while, once a month or something, because right now we're not able to.
You're like a car thief who swore off being a car thief. Like, I don't care how good it pays, but then, then your kid needs surgery, so you're like, we're gonna have to film one more episode of Fast and Furious, I guess.
Right. But like I said, so we just hung in there, robbed Peter to pay Paul. We got way too many high interest bank loans or credit card loans or whatever to pay our bills. But we stuck to our guns and said, I'm going to make this work. And we did like you suggest in your podcast, is do the folders, do up a folder with your price list and your insurance and all that stuff, and go see these property management people. So we did that. I mean, we knocked a whole bunch of them out, but the difference on me compared to those is like you do rental properties. That's all you do. Well, I have the private sector, the homeowners, and the property management. So I'm trying to juggle both at the same time, so I can I can handle having just 3 or 4 property managements, sending me 2 or 3 jobs a week, because I have these private homeowners that keep me busy too. So, I think at some point I wanted to do where I had, 15 to 20 property managements that send me 8 jobs a day.
Yeah.
But I had established such a large clientele with homeowners that I still had to take care of those people. So we kind of do a hybrid version of property management. We do private sector and we do property management. So like a ceiling fan, I told Maria, because property management, the rental properties, you can't charge them private homeowner prices. But the nice thing about it is, like you said earlier, if you do 8 ceiling fans in one day, you can charge less because you got 8 ceiling fans to do in a day.
Yeah.
If you're doing the private sector where I charge $250, $300 for a ceiling fan, but I get 1 ceiling fan a week, I get to charge more, but I'm not making as much money. So I dropped my prices down on the rental properties, paying, I felt like I went back 3 years on some of my prices.
Yeah.
But I got aggressive on my pricing, because it's like, know your worth, so a lot of people would say, oh man, Kelly's prices are pretty high. But, I'm also trying to make a profit. I'm also trying to pay all my overhead because I'm running a legit business,
Yeah.
This other guy that charges $40 an hour, well, he can afford to do that because you're paying him cash under the table, and he's not claiming his taxes, not paying, he's not insured or whatnot.
Yep.
So if you want an insured handyman, then you're going to have to pay,
Yeah.
And so I haven't got my prices. I know that sounds weird because we're in like year 5 or 6 of my business. I still don't have my pricing down good. In fact, you and I had a conversation, how much do you charge to go into one of these rental properties and replace a dishwasher? And, it's basically a service call. You can knock it out in an hour. So let's say if your service call is $150 and you get it done in an hour, you're going to charge that customer $150 to replace that dishwasher because you're fast and efficient and good at it.
And to be fair, that would be low for me, but that's like I have done that before,
right,
just to stay under maintenance limits.
Right.
If I was estimating one today, it'd be more like 200, 250, which
Right.
is still cheap compared to what I see a lot of people charging.
Yeah, well, and that was a conversation you and I had because on the private sector, I think for the labor side of it, I'm 400 or higher. 450, 425 is what I charge for the labor, plus the cost of the dishwasher.
Yeah.
So if you're paying me, let's say $400 to put in a dishwasher, I'm in and out in an hour and a half. But that's my rate, and people pay it. But rental property people won't pay that; they'll go on to the next guy. So, you have to, So I have, a private sector pricing. I have rental property pricing, and one thing that I have not done yet is, and I'll probably steal from you, is a price list. Because if you send a folder to these property management, you get a kind of a breakdown of what your prices are on stuff. It's good for them to know that, and I've yet to provide that because I don't know. I just haven't. I don't have a set.
Well, and to be clear, I haven't provided mine with any set pricing.
Yeah.
I have. So my standardized pricing is really, for me, it's only for my use. It's because it makes it, when I have a punch list 20 items long on a vacant property, I can estimate or invoice that way, way, way faster by just using my standardized pricing, where I can just click on things and add a quantity, click the next one, add a quantity instead of typing it all out. But I haven't given mine any standardized pricing other than I have a trip fee. But the actual pricing for the work that I do, aside from the trip fee, I've not provided that to them. And I actually don't recommend giving that to them unless it's pretty high, or unless you give it to them at least with a caveat of, this is just what it happens to be today. And then letting them know some of these prices are going to go up, some of them are going to go down. As inflation occurs, all of them will go up slowly. But what I don't ever want to do is tie myself down where I get an email one day and somebody says, hey, you charged me $200 to install that faucet, but your price list says you install faucets for $165, and then I have to go back and try to figure out why did I charge more for that particular faucet. So I prefer that they don't have exact pricing, but I wouldn't mind giving them a list and just saying, hey, this happens to be my standard pricing today, but if the job goes differently, I might charge more. If the job goes differently, I might charge less. And over time, my prices are just going to move.
Yeah. I mean, like you mentioned replacing a faucet. My rental, like doing a kitchen faucet, rental properties is anywhere from 100, $99.99 to maybe 150. On the private sector, I start at 300. If they have a garbage disposal, it's even more. So usually, to replace a faucet, I'm charging $350, $400.
Yeah.
On the private sector, I charge $99, $150. Usually, it's just the $150 service fee.
Yeah.
And then I'm in.
And by the way, I mean, your pricing on the private sector, man, you've built something nice in just, you've only been doing it, what, 5 years, you said? 4 or 5 years ago?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's really, to get a good enough reputation that you can consistently charge that much and not have to apologize. You must be kicking ass out there.
Well, and the other thing is, the thing that we started this year is, well, I'd say for about 12 months. Or nah, it hasn't been that long. It's probably been about 8. This year, like in January, I guess. One of the people, and I guess I don't want to say their name, but it was at the retreat that we went to, and he owned a handyman business that had 16 trucks, and he used a program, the profit margin, and I talked to my roofer friend, and they said, "Oh, what's your profit margin?" I'm like, "I don't know what you're saying to me right now. I didn't understand this profit margin or profit calculator." But one of the guys that went to the retreat, he gave Maria, my wife, this formula, and he said, "Here, I'm going to send you this formula. It's already, all you got to do is punch in the numbers, and it'll figure it out for you, and it'll tell you what your profit is." And he said, "You need to be, of course he said 65%, but he said, yeah, you need to be somewhere around 40% to be making a decent profit." So if we would do a job and said, this is how much I charge. Okay, well, let's put it in the calculator. If you're going to charge $400 to replace a sink, and it takes you 1 hour, and how much do you spend on materials? Well, $20, or that's not included, so they'll say, "Oh yeah, you're making 68% profit on doing that job." But there's other jobs like this work in the land job. I'm gonna use that as an example. Is how many hours you're out there? Well, I'm out there for 10, 20, 30, 32 hours for over 3 or 4 days. Well, how much you spend on materials? Well, 25, sometimes it's $100, like right now I had to buy a bunch of saw, a new bar and chain for my chainsaw, but okay, we'll break it down. Okay, well, you're making $60 an hour, Well, my target is $150 an hour. But we also say, well, it's for this particular customer, so I'm okay with that. But when I bid for somebody that I don't know, I mean, I bid high. I bid it to make a profit. So when I come up with my prices, we'll put it in the calculator, how many days you need, how much time. And sometimes we have to go back and well, you're only making 18% profit. Okay, well, let me change my numbers. So we'll jack up the prices to get to where we need to be, and we'll send it, to the customer. And a lot of times I'm thinking there's no way they're going to pay this much money for this particular job. And a lot of times they take it, they take it for, and Ray, one of the main reasons they take it is because of the communication between Maria and them, being well informed, being knowledgeable, knowing, setting them on a schedule, just being professional, sending an actual invoice to them. So there's a lot of things that we do that lets them know, even before I've done a single minute of work for them, that this guy is a legit handyman. He's going to do. I know he's going to do a good job because look how professional he's already been.
Yeah.
And so I charge more than your typical handyman, and I get, I'd say 80% of the jobs I get. In fact, sometimes I've been guilty of bidding a job way too high because I really didn't want to do this certain job. And I tell my wife, she goes, "Well, that seems kind of high." It's like, well, I really don't want to do the job, but if they want me to do it, this is how much they're going to have to pay. And
that hourly rate can change, and how much profit you want can change depending on how much you like the work.
Right. Yes.
Somebody wants me to go under their, single wide trailer that's probably like full of dog shit because they've got a dog that stays under it all summer.
Right. Right.
Crawl through a bunch of insulation to go work on like a rotten floor full of mold. I want more profit and more per hour out of that job than I do out of somebody who wants me to just like come inside, come change all of their doorknobs and deadbolts and rekey them.
Yeah.
Can I show you something? I'm gonna pull something up for you real quick. This is something I've been building that I don't know if Maria would like to see it or use it. I'm going to be publishing this really soon, like in the next day. In fact, I'll take you and me off the screen or put us down there anyways. So you sign into it. It's it tells you whether you want to call it your break even or your profit or hourly rate calculator, whatever you want to call this thing. And when you get in here, I've been literally building this for the last week, almost week and a half.
Oh, yeah.
And you click the start here, and it asks you, for example, right here, how many billable hours per week are you willing to work on the job? Because as you know, especially if you didn't have Maria, if every hour on the job is going to require an hour off the job of building and running a business that doesn't include being at the property with tools in your hands, knocking out work. So you tell it how many hours per week you're willing to work. Click next. Annual salary. How much do you want to pay yourself?
Right.
So right off the bat, just from that, it's going to know that you have to charge X amount of dollars per hour in order to just pay yourself that much, out of the hours per week with no overhead.
Right.
And then here's where you put in general business liability. How much does that cost? Commercial auto insurance, workers' compensation, bonding. You go through that whole thing. And ultimately what it does is it sticks it all onto this form here, and it starts adding up. This right-hand column is the important one because it's breaking down hourly. Like your general business liability is going to cost you, in this circumstance, if I was paying $864 a month, which I'm not, but that would be $570 per hour for every one of the billable hours that I'm on the job.
Right.
And then you get way down. This is just all of your overhead for running a business, which is also useful for figuring out like what you should be looking at deducting at the end of the year. There's more stuff that you can deduct than just this. And then you get subtotals of what all of that added up to. And then this is the part that comes into what you were talking about, profit. Okay, so you can put in here, I want 7% profit. I want to pay myself first, my $100,000 a year, but I want the business itself to also have a 7% profit margin or 10 or whatever you want it to be. And it recalculates these numbers for you. PTO, you want, I think in corporate America, about 8% of the total hours or days they pay you for. About 8% of that is in the form of sick days and vacation days and stuff. Refunds and warranty work, taxes, business taxes, and sales taxes. I made it so you can put your own little custom categories in here if you want to add things that I didn't put in. And then it tells you in the bottom right, and 67, it says 67 an hour. That's because I haven't filled this whole form out for me and my business.
Right.
But it tells you if you want to work 35 hours a week and pay yourself $100,000 a year, and all of these, this is all your overhead. This is how much you're budgeting for uniforms and gasoline and everything. There's what you have to be billable at per hour in order to make that happen.
That is an amazing tool. So,
and I've got an export button here. You click that and it'll download. Oh, good. You can see it. I wasn't sure if this would show it, but you click the export button and it'll download a PDF of this whole thing for you.
Right.
And it will email a copy of it to you. And then also inside the questionnaire, I don't know if you noticed at the bottom, but it says explanation. So if you're building this business over time, and you're not just going to open this form up, stick it all in 1 hour, get your answer and leave. If this is something, this is a process for you, you can put your explanations in under every single category and say, this is why I'm budgeting this amount, because I have these particular assumptions. And you can go back and change it over time. So this can grow and change with you and your business. And when you do that export, it's going to export it's going to export your explanations on that PDF as well. So it's pretty cool. I'm excited about it. I'm not done with it yet. It's not mobile ready yet, but I mean, I'm going to be publishing this probably in about a week. This will be a free public tool that and it'll ask you what your business name is too. So up at the top, instead of Bulletproof Handyman, it'll say like Regouby Designs Overhead Hourly Rate Calculator.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the thing is that one program that we're currently using that the gentleman shared with us. It's like that was his proprietary. Usually he'll charge people to use that calculator, but this what you provided and how far in depth and specific it is. I mean that for anybody that's in our line of work. I mean that's absolutely imperative that you do that, because if you're wanting to, like you said, if you're wanting to make a profit, and that, let's say you're out, in order to make that profit, you have to pay yourself. You want to make, how much you want to make this year? I want to make 150,000. Okay, well, you cannot do a job, no matter how long it takes you. That if you got to pay yourself at least $100 an hour to make that profit. And if you do this job and you do it and you're getting paid less than $100 an hour, then you're losing money.
Yeah, exactly.
And so there's been times, like I said, that we do the calculator and we'll add up the numbers, and it's like, oh, man, I'm only there's been times where it's like -2%,
Oh yeah,
or
absolutely.
18%. So
it happens.
We have to jack up those prices, and then Maria will say, are you good with this? And I'm like, just send it, and like I said, most of the time they'll come back and take it, and
and knowing those numbers is what prevents you, especially when you're new. I started at 25 an hour. Like I can't say anything to anybody about, I can't call anybody dumb for whatever stupid amount they were charging in the beginning, because I started at 25 an hour, and I really thought that I could somehow still do okay. I figured if my wife's got the health insurance covered with her full-time job and I can get 25 an hour, we'll be fine, and then you just run this calculator and it makes it very clear, and it's your numbers. You put whatever numbers in those blocks you want to put in there. And that's your explanation to yourself why you need to charge that. And if your client wants to know, I mean, if you felt like it, you could just print this up and just send them a PDF. Say, why are you so expensive? Well, here you go. Here's what I'm paying for uniforms. I deserve, some PTO every year. I have sick days too. This is what it takes for my retirement. You're paying $1.32 an hour for me, just for me to have insurance.
Right. Yeah. And, and then, something, a lot of times they'll say, well, I have a friend, or this other guy will come do it for $40 an hour. And, that's that. You'll pay them cash. But what happens if they do something wrong and they put a hole in your wall or burn your house down? Then you're screwed, because they don't have insurance. Well, if you have insurance, you want somebody that's insured, you got to pay for that, So that's why you can't have a $40 an hour handyman that covers all those bases,
No, you can't. That's about the overhead for like a small, affordable handyman business. If you're really minimizing expenses, $40 an hour is about where the overhead starts.
Yeah. And another thing is, you hire those people, especially when I was doing the bathroom remodels. I could not tell you how many showers that I had to totally gut out to the studs and start over. That shower, that beautiful shower, was a year old.
All right, I'm tired of letting YouTube run their ads here, so I'm going to do my own. So, did you know that transitioning your business to an LLC protects your personal assets from ambulance chasers and potentially saves you thousands of dollars per year in self-employment taxes? Well, now you know. Don't get caught with your pants down. Protect yourself and your assets by forming your LLC today, and while you're at it, start paying the government thousands of dollars less per year in self-employment taxes. In the description of this video, you'll find a link to Northwest Registered Agent, which is where I'll be forming a brand new LLC for the Bulletproof Handyman channel before the end of this month. While other LLC formation sites will tell you that they're free, they've usually nickel and dimed you out of a few $100s before you actually get your LLC formed in the end. Northwest Registered Agent is a flat $39 fee with no hidden surprises. In fact, the only other expenses you'll have are whatever your filing fees are in your individual state, but that's going to vary state by state. So check out that link in the description and secure your assets and stop paying so much in taxes by forming your LLC with Northwest Registered Agent today. Now back to the show.
Or, but the average age of the showers that I did, most of them were 4 or 5 years old.
That's crazy.
And they say, oh, well, yeah, but this guy only charged me $4,500. I said, yeah, and I'm going to charge you $9,000, and you pay that. You think, oh, this guy's much cheaper, but then you're having to spend another X amount of dollars a year later. And I said, when I get done with that shower, my shower is guaranteed forever. Like I said, if I do a shower, that's part of my things. My shower is lifetime guarantee. Most people don't back their stuff that way. I said, if it's, other stuff is, but so yeah, you're going to pay for it. This is how much. One of the things, because I'm one of those weird people that I break it down for people, itemize it a little bit, not quite every specific nut and screw and stuff, but this is how much I'm charging you for this and this and this. And then they'll read like the shower pan, and this is my price, and I have a set price. This is how much I charge for a shower pan. I don't cut any corners. I won't do it for less because the shower pan is the most important part of a shower. Yeah. And, so they're like, why are you charging, $4,000? I said, well, I use the best materials. I do it right. And if you cut corners on the shower pan and it leaks, then all of this is for nothing.
Yep. Rip it all out.
And the fact is that I said, the thing is I guarantee my showers for life. And twice now, I've had somebody call me and say, hey, and it was actually the 2 times it was weird because these 2 customers that called me back because something was, the grout was falling apart and stuff. I did those 2 showers at the same time. So let's say I'm going to make up a date. So in January of 2024, I did these 2 showers. And, so January of 2025, these 2 particular customers are calling me for the exact same problem. Well, long story short, it was not my work that was defective. It was the material that I used. They had a bad batch that got recalled, and they said, yeah, if you bought this product between this time and this time, there's a chance that it's not any good. And so, but because I give that lifetime warranty, I went in there and regrouted the area that they're having problems with. And they said, well, how much do I owe you? I was like, you don't owe me anything. It's part of my warranty, my guarantee. I said, I don't know why this happened. And I did a lot of research to find out what the problem was. And, like I said, the problem, it wasn't me. It was the material that I used. And I'm sorry that it was defective. But, but other than that, other than those 2 showers, I've never, ever had to go back and do any kind of warranty work on any of my showers.
Yeah, so, that's great.
Yeah. But yeah, I take a lot of pride in what I do, and I don't cut corners, and I'm not cheap. Yeah. But you get, I'm a firm believer is, you get what you pay for, and you have to know your worth, because when I started like you, I took every job. I was hungry, and I was the cheapest.
That's how I learned most of what I know is just because I took every job.
Yeah,
and I figured it out.
And now I'm in a position where I probably I know it sounds bad for me to say this out loud, but I probably turned down half the jobs.
That doesn't sound, man, that's the goal. That's the goal,
I don't
is
want
to
that.
build something. You got to start out doing everything.
Yeah.
You got to start out saying yes to everybody.
Yeah.
All free estimates, doing everything for everybody. That's how everybody has to start out. The goal is to get to the point where you're finally sought after enough by your clients that you have to say no, because your choice is to hire other people or say no. So you want to be so sought after that you have to say no to half of it, because there's not twice the number of hours in the day for you. And then you finally get to start, I used to say yes to everything. I'm not going to take a tile job anymore. From this day forward, I haven't done a tile job now in a year. Maybe I'll have, my subcontractor, Sean, who does a lot of my handyman work for me. If he wants to do a tile repair, I'll take it for him to do it maybe. But I mean, I don't do tile work anymore because I don't want to, and I already have too much work.
Right.
And that's the place that you want to get to, is where you have to figure out who to say no to, because now you're vetting your clients instead of the other way around.
Yeah. And sometimes, Ray, it's not even about time. It's just, I just don't want to do it.
Oh yeah, there's that too. Yep.
And because sometimes it's hard, like drywall. If it's doing overhead drywall where it's full sheets, I can't do that anymore. So, but the difference on me and a lot of people is I will tell people, hey, I'm not gonna, I can do this, but you're not gonna want to pay how much it's going to cost you. I said, let me hook you up with so and so. He's going to be a lot cheaper than me, and he'll probably get it done a lot faster.
Yep.
And so I never just turn down a job and say, no, I don't want this job. I always give them a referral, even like I said, and even if I want multiple bids, and I know another handyman, and maybe I do want the job. I'll bid on that job. I'll give them another handyman. And I was like, I have no idea how much they charge, but I know they do good work. And more times than not, they'll call me back and say, hey, I want you to come do this. Or I've had customers that say, hey, you come so highly recommended. I'm not shopping. I'm not asking anybody else. I want you to come do this job. And, before I even told them how much it's going to cost, because my customers have told them, hey, he's very fair. He's really good. So there's times where I don't care how much it costs. I don't want to use anybody else but you to come do this such and such job. But even on the jobs that I don't want, I give them several names of call this guy, call Joe Bob or whatever. I don't just say no, I don't want the job and hang up the phone. So
one of my go-tos is to let them know. I'll tell them, I'll do this job if you don't have anybody else, because I want to make sure my property managers are taken care of. And I say, I'll do this job if you don't have anybody else. But I have to tell you, I don't think I can price this job competitively. Right. And I use that exact phrase. I cannot price competitively with this job. So I'm willing, but I just need you to know it's almost certain if you find anyone else to do it, they'll probably beat my price. And that's just my way of saying, I don't want to do this job so badly, I'm going to have to charge you even more to do it because I don't want it. Yes, but it's the nice way to say that.
Exact same conversation with my customers. I say, look, I don't want to leave you hanging. I'm going to tell you right now, here, call these 3 people. I said, I guarantee their prices are going to be better than mine, and they're going to get it done quicker, because right now, if you go with me, you're going to have to wait 3 weeks before I can even start. I said, but if their prices are way too higher than what you expected, or you just you can't, like you said, if you can't find somebody, call me back. I'll take care of you. I said, but like you said, it's going to cost you. I'm not going to leave you hanging. If you can't find somebody else to do said job, I'll do it for you. But hopefully, these 3 people, one of these 3 people,
probably try to find somebody though.
Yeah. And another thing, this is another thing that I do, Ray. Totally off the subject. But this is one of the things I do that earns me respect and repeat customers. Is I do, like, somebody's getting ready to sell their house or getting ready to buy a house, and they have the TRR report, and these are all the things that need to be done. or they're getting ready to put their house on the market and they want to do all of this work before the realtor comes in and starts taking pictures. And a lot of times, like this one customer I had, it was probably I'd say it was probably about $12,000 worth of work. A lot of caulking and painting and sealing and just a lot, repair a cracked tile. And it was probably, I'm going to make up a number. It was probably, let's say, $15,000 worth of work. Mm-hmm. I said, well, if I was you, because again, going back to if this was my house and this was my money and I'm the one getting ready to sell this house, what I would do is I do this, this, and this. Yes, because that is going to make or break you selling this house. You have to do these three things. But let's say this $10,000 worth of other stuff that you're wanting to do, I'll tell you what, do this first. Put it on the market as is. I said, man, these people may come in here and fall in love with your house and say, yes, how much, let me buy your house. Or if somebody says, well, I would buy it if you do this, this, and this, I said, then call me back. Call me back and I'll do that. I said, but if I was you and this is my house and my money, don't pay me $10,000 to do this stuff. Just sell the house as is.
Yeah.
I said, this stuff, they won't even notice. This is bothering you, but it's not going to bother anybody else. Or this little crack in the corner. This is Oklahoma. Every house has a crack in the corner, Yeah. And a lot of times I say, look, I'm not refusing to do the work. I'm just trying to save you some money. And the last time that I did that, I did a little bit of work for her, and I told her no on about $10,000 worth of stuff. I said, but I tell you what, if you can't sell the house, or if somebody says this is why I didn't buy your house, I said, call me back, and I'll be more than happy to come back and do $10,000 worth of work. Mm-hmm. That particular customer sold her house in 18 minutes, and she got more than what she was asking for, and she didn't have to spend all that money with me.
Yep, there you go.
So somebody would say, oh, you're an idiot. You just lost to $10,000 worth of work. But what I did do was that customer, when they bought their new house, they said, Kelly, I want you to come in there and do this, this, and this. I did $50,000 worth of work on their new house because they trusted me because I didn't take their money on their old house.
Yeah, just being honest like that builds so much trust. And, it's the same thing with the property managers. The reason that they want to keep sending me all the work, even when, I've got my biggest one that's not happy with me at the moment because they want free estimates and I don't do free estimates, and they feel that the volume of work they send me qualifies them to deserve free estimates. And they want me to use their scheduling software, like inside their own little, their company's app.
Yeah.
Not to document what the schedule is, because I've already been doing that. They want me to use their scheduling software to actually do my scheduling.
Right.
And I told them no, and they're not happy, and they're trying to send me less work right now, but they can't. And the reason they can't is because every time they try to go with somebody else, and again, I say this all the time, I'm not saying I'm amazing.
Yeah.
Like internally, I don't have like superior genes or superior ethics or anything else. I just have decided that my company's just going to like follow through on what we say and show up and do what we said we're going to do when we said we're going to do it for the price we said we're going to do it for. And we're not going to drop the ball. We're just, you can send us all the work you want. And that is such a rare commodity to them.
Oh, yeah.
It's built up so much trust. They trust me. I mean, it's not a personal trust, but they just believe that anything they send to me is just simply going to get done professionally, and they're going to receive an invoice for a fair amount of money.
Absolutely.
And that by itself is so much trust that have no choice but to keep working with me.
Right.
And it's the same thing when you turn down $10,000 worth of work.
Yeah.
And then they go buy that new house and then give you $50,000 worth of work. It's because you earn the trust by just being a trustworthy guy.
Yeah. And that was like, there was no hidden agenda. I mean, that was the end result. But when I was talking to them, again, it goes back to, I like helping people. It's people think I'm crazy, but I talk, like on that, when I talked them out of spending all this money, because they're like, this is my house, this is my money, and I didn't do it thinking, oh yeah, as soon as they buy the new house, I'll get a whole bunch of work.
No,
But I
you
want
were
them
just
to know, hey,
ethical.
I'm trustworthy. I really do. I do take an interest in my clients, and I really do want to help you.
Yeah.
And
You're just
sometimes
following through on your promise to treat their money like it's your money and to
Yeah.
treat their house like it's your house.
Yeah, yeah, and 9 times out of 10, I talk people out of it. They don't call me back. They sell their house in one day, or
Yeah.
whatever. And so I never go back and do the work that I turned down the first time. But 9 times out of 10, that person, when they get to their new place, they'll call me, and their girlfriend calls me, and their girlfriend's girlfriend calls me, and next thing you know, I got 4 customers out of turning one job down. So it's a honesty and integrity goes a long way. So.
It does. Yeah, it's a top 10% in this field right off the bat if that's all you have.
Yeah.
So, let's see, back up a little bit. I feel like you were, so over the course, you had a rough start as far as getting sort of transitioning over to these smaller jobs. You had a
Right.
4 to 5 month period of kind of a rough start.
Yeah.
And then how did it, so what started working? Why did it start working? What decisions were made that sort of like put you on a good path? And then, try to lead me up to where you're at now.
We went through several property managers.
You do have to do that.
Some of them weren't a good fit, net 30, net 45, and in fact, I had this one, because I really wanted to get my foot in the door, and they were going to send me a lot of business. So I did this. I painted a whole inside of a house. I didn't want to tell you how much I did it for, but they said, if you do it for this amount, I guarantee you'll get the job. And I was trying to establish with that particular company. So I wanted to do it. And, my wife thought it was a good idea. I bitched and moaned about it and said, there's no way I'm going to do this, paint this whole inside of this house for this amount of money. I said, that's, a third of what I would normally charge, but we want to get our foot in the door, and then, so we got our foot in the door, but I did notice that I had to lowball everything, to get my foot in the door. And then on this one, like I said, we on this particular example where I painted the inside of the house, I lowered my price and agreed to do it to help them out, to get, I'm trying to get established with them. And then they said, oh, well, we can pay you when we sell the house. Not we can pay you in a week.
After you were done painting.
Yeah, after I'm done, because
before.
they said, if you do it by this day, then you get paid the following week. At most you'll have to wait 15 days. Very rarely will you ever have to wait 30 days to get paid.
Yeah.
And so I did this job, and after I did the job for pennies on the dollar, then they're like, oh, well, we can't pay you until we sell the property or till we rent the property out. And it probably stayed vacant for about 3 months. And it took me that long to get paid. And so that was the last job I did for that particular rental property.
Yeah.
We have another one that they call me for everything now. The first couple months I was with that rental property, I was going back and fixing what the last handyman screwed up. This guy, he'd go replace somebody, and next thing you know, he cracked somebody's window and said, oh, I'll come back and fix that later. Don't tell anybody. And 6 months later, that window's still cracked, So they ended up letting him go. I spent, I'd say, 3/4 of my jobs for the first few months was going back and fixing all his mess ups. And they had him on salary. My hourly or my job, I never get paid by the hour. I get paid by the job.
Yeah, me too.
And I would do so instead of paying me a salary to be on the clock for 8 hours a day, whether I was working or not. You pay me for jobs, my job rate was for certain jobs was quite a bit higher than what they were paying this other guy. But at the end of the month, they were saving a lot of money by not having me on salary and just paying me per job. And every job that I did, they never had to call me back. And if they did, every single job that I do has a 12 month warranty on it. In fact, I just did a dishwasher several weeks ago for a tenant, and long story short is the dishwasher had a little plastic piece that was defective. It fell off. It's not supposed to fall off. So I the rental property said, how much are you going to charge me to fix it? I said, well, if it's something I did wrong, I'm not going to charge you anything, but so long story short is I'm fighting with Samsung trying to get this defective piece replaced. But I've spent maybe an hour total of about an hour on the phone talking to technicians and service people. But at the end of the day, when I do get it resolved, I'm not going to charge the rental property for that because, it's kind of like me and Maria said, that's part of my warranty. And because they're such a good client that I'll take care of you.
I do the same thing. And I have an unofficial, officially I have a 1-year warranty, but unofficially my clients understand that I have a lifetime warranty if it's my fault. So within 1 year, I treat it as any warranty. If it's within 1 year and it doesn't look like the tenant, like if I put a towel bar up and your 13-year-old tries to do chin ups and rips it out, that's not warranted. But, just about anything else is, as long as it wasn't caused by the tenant. But unofficially, I have a lifetime warranty if it looks like it was my fault,
Right,
So
absolutely.
3 years later, 5 years later, if I get called in and something I did could have or should have been done differently to make that work correctly, I'm going to take care of that out of my own pocket for the reason you stated. Was because if you're one of those great clients that keeps me full of work, to me, that's just overhead. That's making up for, I don't have a customer acquisition cost on anybody because I'm not acquiring any customers anymore because of you. So I'll put some of that customer acquisition cost, I'll turn that right back around into you and just do some favors every now and then. But those do have to be my favors. The client doesn't get to choose what the favors are.
Right. Yeah. And we've done the exact same thing is, a customer, like I said, and it doesn't happen very often because I usually don't have to go back and fix something. But this one here, a guest messed up their ceiling fan, just pulled the chains and destroyed the ceiling fan. And, again, it wasn't my fault. My work was done good, and the reason why the ceiling fan is working is not because of my workmanship, but because they were such a good client. I was like, hey, if you buy another ceiling fan, I'll come by and put it in, no charge.
Nice. That's
and
cool.
So to me, I was like, I just lost $350 by not charging them. I could have charged them. It wasn't my fault. If I take it down and put it up, that's how much it costs. But because, like you said, they're such a good customer that they, that goes a long way. It's like, hey, Kelly will take care of you.
Yeah.
And so, there's been a couple times where if I just did this one, the customer, I basically did a little bit of electrical work, and it was like one of those, gates, the housing community that has a gate. So you get in the driveway and it opens and closes with a key fob. Well, it wasn't working right. And, so they wanted me to fix it and to run a wire and bury the wire into the concrete of the driveway and everything. So I did it all. And I was there. I tested it, pushed the button, the gate opens, the gate closes. So as far as I was concerned, we're done. Pay the bill. 2 days later, they called and said, hey, I'm at my house and my gate won't open. And I'm like, what? I opened it 5 times when I was there. What's going on? So I went back to, I rescheduled one job and said, "Hey, I'll be there, but I got to go swing by and do this other thing real fast." So I went by that. I treated it like an emergency. I redid the wires, thinking, "Oh, the wires weren't done right," and tested the key fob, and it worked. The gate opened and closed. So then I was like, "Okay, it's fixed. It must have been a loose wire." And then the next day they called me again and says the gate won't open. And I was like, I don't know what's going on. I said, I've checked, I redid the wires. It worked. So I got my multimeter out and I was testing everything. Long story short is ended up being the batteries. The batteries were dead or defective. So they had to spend a lot of money to buy new replacement batteries, but that fixed all the problems they were having.
Yeah.
And so I had been out there two more times, so I could have charged them a service fee of $150 each trip and made $300 because the problem wasn't my fault. It was defective equipment that the gate people, had to replace a defective battery. But I treated it like, hey, I'm going to find out what the problem is. Nobody asked me to call the gate manufacturer and find out why their circuit board's not working. But I promise you, Mr. Customer, I'm going to get this resolved before I leave. This is my third time to be here. We're going to figure out what's going on because I don't want to come back again for the same problem. Yeah. And we fixed it. He had to spend a little bit of money on those new batteries, but he didn't have to spend it with me, spend it with the other guy. Yeah. And I didn't charge him to do it, but I helped him troubleshoot it. And I was just me and Maria, because Maria's kind of mean to me sometimes. I was just grateful it wasn't my fault.
Yeah.
So the fact that it wasn't my fault was a huge relief to me. And then Maria wasn't mad at me. So, but again, it's about taking care of those customers. So those type of customers are going to call you back.
Yeah.
Next time they need something, and they're going to be more willing to pay your prices too, because they know you do good work. So.
Yeah, right on. So you had to fire a few property managers.
Yeah, and one of them and another one is we just had to chase them down to pay their bill, and they weren't very consistent, and we always had to call them and say, "Hey, you owe me for this, and this invoice. It's been 2 weeks. It's been 15 days. It was just like, and when I say we, I mean Maria would have to call them and say, when you're going to pay, when you're going to pay, when you're going to go pay. And finally, I just said, look, they're more trouble than they're worth. Yeah. We shouldn't have to wait 45 days to get paid. We shouldn't have to chase you down. I want the rental properties that they pay every Friday. If you get at work and you turn it in by, Wednesday of that week, you'll have a check waiting for you 2 days later, or we'll get you the next Friday.
Yeah.
So I've got a few of those, or a couple of those that hey, we get paid. So the most I have to wait would be, 5 days to get paid,
Yeah.
And I'd much rather do that because every Friday Maria's got on the schedule, hey, go by such and such property at 12 and pick up the checks. Now, if we don't get there, then they mail it. We just have to wait a few days to get the check, but we usually want our money. So every Friday she knows she can go to the office and pick up, stack of checks,
Yeah.
So those are the customers that are the clients that I want to keep, the ones that, we're going to pay you when we rent out the property, or we'll pay you in 15 days, or.
All right, I don't like YouTube's ads, so I'm going to do my own. Now, as a handyman and a tradesman, most of us aren't super computer savvy, so we need ready-made solutions, and if AI can do it for us, then that's even better. So today I'm going to talk to you about Wix for building your website. I've tried every platform, and although there is a close competitor I'll be telling you about soon, Wix is currently the fastest and easiest AI website builder on the market. I like to say that it's so easy a handyman can do it. Just click on that link in the description and tell the AI in plain English exactly what your business is and let the AI build your site for you. The only thing you'll need to do is click to edit the text and put things into your own words, and then click to replace the photos with your own personal photos. Everything else is done for you. And like I said, the beauty of Wix is that AI does the work, and it's so easy that even a handyman can do it. So click that link today, have your own site up and running in just a few hours. And now back to the show.
Whatever, I don't want those, And like I said, we've had a few, like this one. Sometimes my heart goes out to people, like single moms. I have a thing about single moms and trying to survive and raise their kids and on their income, and so my prices will fluctuate, or we'll work with them. But you just got to communicate with us. Communicate. Hey, I can't. I can't pay you until next week. Or I can't pay you for another 2 weeks, but I really need this done. If I have the opportunity to do it, I'll go do it for you. But if you tell me you're going to pay me in 2 weeks and you don't pay me in 2 weeks, then don't call me again asking me to do another favor. You pay me on the spot, or I won't do a job for you. So
yeah, there you go. So what other lessons did you learn transitioning over to the small jobs?
Well, if you're going to first of all, if you're going to do a transition, then have a nest egg, have some transition money, because just because you're changing what you do as for a business doesn't mean your bills stop. Mm-hmm. So I probably shouldn't have done it the way we did it, but we made it work. We probably spent way too much. We probably lost a bunch of money on interest rates and loan fees or whatever, but. So if you're going to transition, then have a little bit of a nest egg to get you through the transition period, because there will be a transition period, because you got to build up, like you said, the rental properties. You got to build up those properties where they start calling you.
And it takes time to earn the trust, and there's another handyman that you're competing with in the beginning. Yeah. And if you do well, then you're the only handyman 3 or 6 months later. Right. But it does take time to ramp.
Yeah, and like I said, and I think when you go in there with that folder that has all that stuff there, the tax information, the insurance, all that stuff. That way they know you're a certified business. That goes a long way, and people will put you at the top of their stack and say, hey man, these guys brought me cookies and a folder. So the next time I need a handyman, or an opportunity comes up where if this handyman quits, I know I have somebody to fill that slot. Yeah. So they may not call you that week or even 2 weeks later, but all of a sudden you'll get a call, a month from the day you dropped off your folder a month ago, that they said, you know what, this other handyman's not working out.
Right around tax return time, all of a sudden they're calling you because the other handyman got his $3,000 tax return and just decided he didn't feel like working for 3 weeks.
Yeah. I did this one job where the guy started the bathroom remodel. He got paid in advance, I guess, for some of it. And then he just decided, I'm going to go work for this guy over here. He's going to pay me more than what I'm making at this business. So he literally left the customers with a half finished bathroom, and that they already paid for, and it's like, by the time you go to
property
claims court,
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I said by the time you go to small claims court and stuff to try to get your money back, it's just not worth it. So then you're having to bite a bullet and pay somebody else to come finish that job.
I've got a property manager that sends me work. I'm way too expensive for her. I've seen her guys' pricing because I went to a property once. They literally had a contract printed up and tacked to the wall, and that was their contract for in detail the work he was supposed to do on that. And it was like a little move out, and it was a contract taped to the wall with his pricing, with a sentence at the top that said, I agree to not go over this pricing.
Right.
It's I could tell, I know how long it takes to do stuff. This dude's doing work for her for $20-25 an hour. Yeah. So I'm way too expensive for her. But about once a year, he goes to jail for one thing or another. It seems to, it's never murder, obviously.
Right, right.
about once a year, he finds himself in jail for 2 to 3 weeks, maybe a month, month and a half. So once a year, I'm her handyman for a month or two. And then she just tells me too, she says, oh yeah, he's in jail again. Can you do all of my work for the next month or two? And I'm like, you know, my pricing, as long as you're fine with my pricing, I'm happy to do the work. And he gets out of jail and, you know, the work is his again. And I'm happy to do that for her.
Yeah. And I have this one that's well, it started off being a rental property manager, and then I started taking care of her property. Well, she had this one handyman that she'd used for years, and you know, I'd just say, hey, I need this done. He'd go buy the materials, he'd get it done, and you know, send me a bill. I never had to worry about any of it. Well, this guy passed away, you know, and so she's like, so, you know. But the thing was, using a handyman for so long, you know, you paid, you know, I say your grandfather claused in there, so he paid you a fee. He's an 80-year-old man that's going to charge you $40 an hour to do this job. Well, you know, if you bring in somebody new, you know, with their 2025 rates, you're going to have to pay more, you know. And the first couple of jobs I did for her, she would complain and say, you know, Melvin did this and Melvin didn't charge that. And I'm like, well, Melvin's not here.
Yeah.
You know? And if you want me to do the job, you have to pay for it. And so she complained a little bit about having to pay my elevated rates, you know, for the job. But she saw that I did such a good job and I took care of everything, and she just didn't have to worry about anything except for come look at it when I'm done. And so, man, next thing I know, she'd call me for another job. And then she started calling me for another job. And then she started calling me for another job. And so I do a lot of work for her. And every time I send her an estimate, you know, and, you know, they have to, customer, what we do is we send the customer an estimate. This is the prices. You know, I require 25% down if it's over $1,000. Sometimes that's for materials. Most of the time I tell them, hey, if it's over $1,000 and you want me to do it, then you have to pay 25% down. So I'll put you on the calendar. If you don't pay the down, I'm not going to put you on the calendar.
Yeah.
And so they'll pay. A lot of people kind of complain about that, but they say,
oh, that's fair. I do 50%. If I'm charging any deposit at all, it's just automatically 50% for me. So that's more than fair.
Yeah. And sometimes I'll charge more if let's say I'm going to have to spend more than 25% just buying the materials, then I'll charge them just for the materials.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've done that for years. You know, the 25% down, and I know I probably need to change my numbers, but it works for me. So
well, it's a good way to vet them. I mean, you can charge anything. You know, some people do nothing down; they front all the materials, get paid later. Some people do 50% down and then like another 25% halfway through the job and then 25% at the end. So, I mean, what numbers you use aren't important. But what is important is that you don't schedule them until that down payment's made, because that shows their commitment towards following through on paying you in the end.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because when I was doing the bigger remodel jobs, I would do that. At 25% down, let's say it's going to take 5 weeks to do a job, then I would divide the remainder, divide it by 5, and say, okay, every Friday you owe me $3,000, you know, and at the end, you know, the last payment will be $2,700 instead of $3,000, or it'll be $3,200. But I'm gonna split the job into 5 payments, you know.
Yeah.
And so I would make sure I got to pay, you know, because I got bills to pay, you know, and so I want to have a paycheck every week, you know. So sometimes you have to do something like that, yeah.
So how do you feel I mean, it's not the end of the road, I guess, but it's where you're at on the road as of today. How do you feel about the transition? How do you feel about the way that it all went and where you've ended up at?
The one thing that I've noticed, and like I said, that Marie and I get to spend more time here at the house. I come home at a decent time, you know. Sometimes I come home at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Sometimes I come home at 7, but in general, I come home at a decent time. Sometimes I have more than one day off a week, which is fine. And I always have to be busy. So I think if I have more than one day off, I go crazy. But there's days where, you know, a job gets canceled and then I have like 2 days off, right? Sometimes I even have 3 days off. But at the end of the year, you know, we've been doing it for a year now. I'm making, or at the end of the month even, I'm making more money on a monthly basis doing these in and out jobs than I did doing these big remodel jobs. And a lot of those jobs don't, you know, like I said, I don't charge the 25% if it has to be over $1,000. So a lot of these jobs, I don't charge a down payment, you know, but like I said, you know, I come home, you know, and I've got, you know, I made, you know, there's days where I come home and I made, you know, $14,000. I'm sorry, $1,400. And then there's another. I'll come home on a Tuesday and only made $350, and then I'll come home on a Wednesday and I made $7,000. You know, so but at the end of the month, and we compare, you know, we compare to our last year's numbers and the year before, and at the end of the month, those numbers are consistently higher. You know, there's been a couple months that I had slow months, but those slow months were still higher than the slow month last year. You know, July evidently is a really slow month for me because people are taking last minute vacations or they're getting ready for back to school. So you know, like I said, July was a slow month for me, but my numbers at the end of the month were still better than July of 2024 and July of 2023. So this year, doing just the in and out jobs, we've had some record breaking months like February, March, and I think April. All three of those months were the highest February, March, and April's that we've ever done in 5 years of business.
That's awesome.
And like I said, I'm not working nearly as hard, and I'm making more money. So I'm pretty happy with it. The hardest transition for me was, and I always use ceiling fans as my example, is the hardest thing. The two things that I had a hard time transitioning into, especially with rental properties, is how much I charge to do job X, whatever that is, ceiling fan. My normal rate, well, my old number used to be $200 to replace the ceiling fan, or $250 if it has a remote. That was my 2024 price. My 2025 price is $300 to replace the ceiling fan and $350 if you want a remote control. Rental properties. I've done a ceiling fan for $80, you know, and I was like, man, you know, I'll do this one, you know, $120 for this one. And I was like, man, that's not even half of what I get paid to do. But I did 6 ceiling fans in one day, and, you know, you make, you know, $1,200 or whatever, you know. I did this one house. Well, I bid. I haven't got it yet. If I replace a light fixture, like they have a light and they want to replace the light, I charge $175 plus the price of the light. To me, it's take some wing nuts off of the wires, 3 wires, and screw it back into the bracket and connect those 3 wires. It's the easiest job I have. But you charge me $175. I charge $175 per light. Well, this customer, they just bought a house and they want to replace every light in their house and every ceiling fan. So, you know, and they have the can lights. So it was like 30 lights, you know. Well, okay, if I'm doing 30 lights, I'll do them for $75 across the board for the lights. And then I was going to charge more for the ceiling fan, but it's still going to be quite a bit less than what I normally charge. If I go to a house to do 1 ceiling fan, $300. If I do 6 ceiling fans, I can charge you a little bit less and get them done in the same amount of time. So this one customer, I was willing to replace their lights for $75 a piece instead of $175 because I was doing so many of them. So I had to adjust my prices. I'm not going to do a ceiling fan for less than $300, and they want me to do it for $180. Yeah, but you're in and out. I'm in and out in an hour, and they have 6 other buildings they need ceiling fans in, or I need smoke detectors, and the other thing was, and I had a hard time with this one, and Maria kind of said, you're going to have to get over it because my work is so, I hold myself up to such a high standard, my quality of work. And I don't take shortcuts, and I don't put lipstick on a pig is what I call it. I don't,
I hate that phrase. I've had property managers ask me, using those words specifically, saying, I'm just asking you to put lipstick on the pig. And I'm like, that's exactly what I won't do.
Yeah. And I refused to do it at first. And then, so I was turning down a lot of jobs. And I'm like, well, if this new rental property calls you for 5 jobs and you turn down all 5 jobs, they're probably not going to call you back for that 6th job. So I kind of did a little bit of a compromise, and I said, well, I will do this the way you want me to do it. Instead of painting the whole wall, I'll just paint the patch that I fixed. Now, you'll be able to see it because this white's a different color of the white than this one is. You'll be able to notice it, but you don't want to pay to paint the whole wall. I'm just going to patch and paint this one little spot, and we'll call it good. You'll be able to tell where the repair is because the 2 different color whites, but that's what you're going to pay for. And I would do it and have to walk away and say, okay, I patched a hole, let's say a 5x5 hole, patch it, drywall, texture, paint, $350, and walk away, as opposed to, painting corner to corner when I do a repair and I paint corner to corner, then you will not be able to go back in that room and tell me where the damage was at because it looks perfect. There's no color variations.
And that's probably one of the hardest skills to learn is to go, now I don't, here's what's not okay. Like putting a piece of paper over the hole and painting the paper over, like that to me is putting lipstick on a pig. That's
I don't have enough guts, Steven.
Way. But one of the hardest things to do, I think, for me to learn when I started out was to understand that everybody, and the best way I ever figured out to put it was just with car dealerships. Some people are looking for an affordable, say brand new $30,000 car. Right. And some people are looking for a brand new $200,000 car. And they're not going to be the same quality. They're both solid cars. They both meet all the safety requirements from, the National Highway Transportation Safety Board. They've both gone through all the quality stuff. They're both safe. They're both perfectly valid solutions to the problem of getting from point A to point B. But one's 30,000 and one's 200,000. And there's nothing wrong with being the $30,000 person. And there's nothing wrong with being the $200,000 person. But when it comes, especially with rentals, and I think this probably kind of applies across the board. But when it comes to rentals, it's okay to go, okay, yeah. So, what matters is your patch is a solid patch.
Right.
That you actually did patch that drywall the right way. Right. And then in terms of aesthetics, if they don't want to pay the extra money to go corner to corner, that's the thing that was hard for me to get used to was the idea that I need to be able to actually, and I realized what helped was me figuring out that it was actually a pride problem. It was my problem, not theirs.
That's what
it was the fact that I didn't want to do certain things, certain types of ways.
My name is on that wall, and I don't want my name
when I
to be
tried to come up with my explanation, because what I ultimately challenged myself to do was just to say, when somebody wants you, I'll give you a great example. The first time anybody said, I want you to put lipstick on the pig, it was a set of kitchen. The house was going to be selling. They were putting it on the market, and they wanted me to paint the kitchen cabinets. And the kitchen cabinets, and this place was like 70 years old. It was original cabinets covered in grease. And I knew for a fact that there's no way for me to paint those cabinets to do a quality job, a correct job, is going to require stripping them and sanding them and priming them, maybe priming them twice, and then painting them. That's the only way to do this job and not have grease bleed through on whoever the buyer is 3 months later. That's the only right way to do the job. And they wanted me to literally just slap paint on right on top of the grease. And they're not going to go to they're not going to bring the prospective buyers in and say, hey, by the way, we just put lipstick on the pig and this is all
Right.
going to bleed through and you're not getting what you think you're getting.
Yeah.
They're not going to do that. To me, that was wrong. But if they want me to, assuming that everything is done correctly, if they want me to do a job that's just simply doesn't look as pretty as what I would like it to look, then the question I always just made myself start answering was, where can I point out that this is the wrong way to do this job?
Yes. Yeah.
And that's how I figured out how to start adjusting my levels of
Yeah.
quality for the client's budget. Was, can I point out how this is wrong? You know,
Yeah.
if it's wrong and I can show it's wrong, this is low quality, not going to last, then I won't do those things for those clients.
Right.
But if I can't say where it's wrong, and if the only thing I can come up with is it's just not the way that I want to do it,
Yeah.
then that's on me, and I need to do what the client is asking to pay for, as long as I'm making my rates that I need to be making.
Okay. Yeah, I got a perfect example, but I got to walk away from the camera for just about 2 minutes. So
Sure.
let's pause it, and I'll be right back.
All right. I'll
Okay.
make a cup of coffee, and I'll meet you right back here.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks.
Hey, there we are.
All right, I'm back.
All right.
So a good example I had, because I call it the lipstick on a pig, is like I said, I had to like change the quality of my work. I mean, but another thing that I offered, and I would, because there's part of my name. The name of my company is Solutions by Regouby Designs.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that I do is I come up with solutions. An example I had is this one customer had their shower pan was leaking, and they take a shower and just water was just running the whole front of their, the floor in their bathroom. And I when I first did it, I did the inspection. I looked at all the things. I said, well, what needs to happen is you need to tear all of this out, start completely over. How much is that going to cost? About $10,000. Well, what's my next option? And I was like, well, I said, but again, I guarantee that will never ever leak again. But you're to do it right, you're gonna have to tear all this out, $10,000. Well, I said, but what we could do is, I said, there's two other options. I said, it's leaking right here and here. I said, we could, right here on the curb, I could take out these 4 tile, put some new mortar and grout, put some, remortar those in, reset those and regrout it, charge you, and then seal right here, some silicone right here. It's going to cost you $500. I said, but I won't guarantee it. I make you do the job, and then you run the shower, and it instantly leaks, or a month from now it'll leak, or 6 months from now it'll leak. I said, so I don't guarantee my work. You're going to have to pay me $500 whether it ever leaks again or not to do that. But the good news is, if that fixes the problem, then I saved you $9,500. I said, but I won't guarantee my work. I'll do this as a different solution. I said, but that's when my 1 year warranty that comes into play. I was like, I can't warranty this work. I will do it. I will do this fix. It may or may not fix the problem. If it does, awesome. I just saved you $9,500. If not, then you're going to have to go with plan B or do a complete, shower replacement at $10,000. So worst case scenario is you're going to spend $10,500.
Yeah.
Best case scenario is you spend $500 and it's fixed the problem.
Pretty good odds.
Yeah. And so, a lot of times, like I said, I'll do it, and I'll say, well, I think this, and then another one that I did, which it kind of made me feel a little shady at the end afterwards, because the lady was getting ready to sell her house, and she had a leak, shower pan, and everything checked out. They didn't use drywall, they used cement board and all that stuff. So everything was good except for the grout line. Grout line was bad. And I said, well, in order to fix it correctly, you're going to have to take out, this grout, it's going to be $1,700, I said, but when I'm done, it will never leak again. This is what it needs, I said, or what you can do is I can, put some sealant here, and put some silicone grout down on just these 4 spots.
All right, YouTube ads are boring, so let's do our own. Do you have a separate business checking account, or was that process so complex and time-consuming that you said, never mind, I'll just run everything out of my personal account? Well, I have a great company to tell you about today, and that's Blue Vine Checking. Blue Vine is an online bank that will set you up with business checking in less than 5 minutes with nothing more than your EIN. And by the way, you can get an EIN from irs.gov in literally 5 minutes, and you don't need a business to get one. And by the way, you don't have to start filing taxes or anything like that when you get one either. It's just an identifier that you can use to get your free online checking account from Blue Vine. These Blue Vine online accounts are exactly like any other checking account, except that it's way faster to get set up. They'll pay you interest just for having a checking account, and you can have it set up in minutes today. So click on the link in the description and stop mixing your personal and business finances. Now back to the show.
And just don't turn the shower on and hope that the home inspector doesn't turn the shower on, and then just sell the house. Now, that being said, it may, when they do, the person that buys the house turns the shower on, it may not leak anymore. Because I felt like what I did fixed the problem, but I can't guarantee it. Well, and the other thing is even if I offered a 1-year warranty on it, well, they're selling the house in 2 weeks, so it doesn't really matter. Yeah. I said, really, I'm going to do this, but I'm going to just tell you, if you can prevent turning the water on, don't turn the water on, and it fixed your problem. I replaced the warped boards in the living room and fixed the water leak in there. It should not leak anymore, but I can't guarantee that it won't. So just don't turn the water on between now and 2 weeks from now, and we'll call it good. Well, they never called me back, so I assumed it didn't leak anymore.
Nice.
So anyway, if lipstick on a pig, I would patch it, and I would ask the customer, do you want me to get my patch to match this patch, this patch, and this patch that's on the wall? All these different techniques. I said, I can fix those and make it all look better. And like I said, I can fix these texturing jobs, blend it all where you can't tell where the holes were, and then paint corner to corner, and it'll look like a brand new wall. But it's going to cost you, $1,500. Or I can patch this one hole and throw some paint on there that may or may not match, and it'll cost you, $300. Well, they're going to do the $300. I said, but I'm letting you know that if you step back and you take a picture of that to put in your rent.com website, it's going to look like a giraffe, because you're going to see all these different spots. So, but I get that. Yeah, the house is, the rent's $800 a month. Why spend $1,500 on materials? Yeah. Another thing that I did that helped me out, there's this guy named Ray Duke that gave me some great advice on one of his YouTube videos, and he said, when you go looking for the rental properties, look for the one like the multifamily type homes, or where the rent it's a newer house, or the rent's like $2,000, $2,500, anything above $1,500 a month. Yeah. Because when you get you're going to get nicer houses. If the person's going to rent this house and pay $2,000 a month for the house, then they're going to be particular about how it looks. Mm-hmm. So if you go for that rental property, Acme Rentals or AcmeEliteRentals.com or whatever, then, and their average price of their rental properties is $2,500 a month, then they're going to be held to a higher standard, and they're going to be more willing to pay a realistic price for repair.
Yeah, you want to filter out the companies that have the cheapest properties.
Yeah, and so it's hard. I'm never going to make enough money doing those cheap repairs on a house that costs $800 a month to live in, where I can charge closer to my regular fee for this house that you pay $2,300 a month in rent, and they're going to take that job, and they're going to want you to paint corner to corner, because they're going to put it in this on this digital images on this website to get somebody else to rent that house, and they want it to look good. So those are the clients you want. So I quit doing a lot of the other clients, and started doing the more elite rental properties. So
yeah, there you go. Well, while we were on break, I checked my audio, and the battery's getting a little low, and I don't want to cut us off like unintentionally.
Yeah.
And we've gone 2 hours already, which is pretty awesome. So what I'd like to do now is to wrap this up.
Okay.
I want to know two things, and I've got a little flash on my battery thing over here that basically is letting me know I've got about 10 minutes.
Okay.
So in the course of 10 minutes, if you could tell me, number one, where you're taking things in the future, if you have any changes. I mean, maybe you're just love what you're doing exactly the way it is, but where you're going to try to take this into the future. And then I just want you to have the last word, to just say whatever you want to say to the viewers, keeping in mind most of the viewers of these interviews are going to be newer guys who are trying to sort of get a sense of what the industry is like and how they can enter and succeed. So your future plans, and then just you have the final word before we get out of here.
Okay. And yeah, our future plans is what, nice thing about what Maria and I do is, we have a end of the year conference or meeting, and we go to a cabin or somewhere outside of the house. And last year, Maria has this whole entire PowerPoint presentation and, documents, for paperwork, this thick, but we take our business seriously, and we set goals for ourselves. And my goal for 2025 was to expand in social media. Put out like a monthly or even a weekly Instagram, picture or something like that of hey, handyman special for the week is, hey, it's fall now, we're, fall back time. Let's change your batteries in your smoke detectors. So we come up with all these plans and goals. Like this year, I wanted to hire a permanent part-timer, or I'm sorry, a permanent full-timer to help me. But I didn't want to hire a kid that that's not reliable, doesn't know how. I don't want to spend all my time training them. I want somebody that knows what they're doing. So we hired an HR person, came up with an employee handbook, and they helped us create ads for jobs, because we want, instead of paying a kid $15 an hour and spending most of my day training them, I'm going to pay $28 an hour for somebody with a little bit more skill level, and we'll just knock out more jobs. So we're not quite there yet, just mainly because I'm scared to death that as soon as I hire somebody, then business is just going to drop, and then now I'm stuck with this employee that I can't pay for. Probably our goal within the next 5 years. My son's going to graduate high school in about 4.5, 5 years. My plan is as soon as he graduates, I'm getting the heck out of this town. I want to go somewhere else. If I could pick where I wanted to go live, it's probably Abiquiu, New Mexico, which is real close up north, real close to the Colorado border. Beautiful, beautiful landscape. The downside to that is there's, population 600. Well, I'm not going to be making, $200,000 a year when there's only 600 people in the whole town,
Yeah.
So, in order to me to go there and to be comfortable, what I need to do is franchise my business. I need to bring in somebody here in Oklahoma that will take over my business, and allow me to do even less work than I'm doing now, spend more time bringing in more business and let him do the physical work. And then at some point within now and the next 5 years, he runs the company. He knows how to do everything. He's got a kid working for him, and he can handle the business. And I know I'm leaving it in good hands. And then I can go retire in New Mexico and know that I'm going to keep taking care of my customers because I got somebody that's that good that can take care of my customers. Also, we're looking into doing like satellite locations. Like we live here in Oklahoma City. Actually, we live in Edmond, which is just north of Oklahoma City. The next biggest town is in Tulsa, which is probably about an hour and a half. If I drive it, it's an hour away. If my wife drives it, it's an hour and a half away. So it's really too far for me to go to do the handyman type jobs. Now, if I was going to do a remodel or the bigger type jobs, then I could account for, the gas mileage and, and a per diem or whatever, or staying at a hotel for a few days. But I can't charge a customer $600 for replacing a ceiling fan just because they're in Tulsa, So what I need to do is bring in somebody, have a short period of, 3 to 6 months of training them here locally in Oklahoma City, and then helping them get established and get set up in Tulsa, and then they work out of Tulsa. I go maybe once a month, to kind of check on him, make sure he help him out if he needs help or whatever. But finding somebody that's trustworthy enough that they can maintain my business with my name and my integrity and my work levels, and I can trust that they're going to do that job. And now I'm going to get money coming from a satellite business, that because I'm letting you run the business. I showed you how to do it and give you all the tricks of the trade, and gave you my name and my reputation. Now you're making money, I'm making money. So the 5-year goal is to hopefully have a couple of satellites set up, or I'm getting with some other people looking into what it's going to take to start a franchise, because not that I'm anything amazing, but the reputation I have, that Maria and I have here locally, we come highly recommended, and we can take that reputation and that worth ethics and our established clientele, a list of clientele, and hand that over to somebody else, and then you pay me 20% a month or whatever. I haven't worked it all out, so my end goal is to make a heck of a lot more money and work a heck of a lot less.
Ramp revenue and get closer to retirement.
Yeah. So because I'm, like I said, I'm not getting any younger.
Yeah.
So that's our goal for the future. What was the other question?
Just any closing.
Nuggets.
I just want you to have the final word. If you want to give any advice to some newcomers, or just even existing, already experienced people, about just what you have to say, with the floor being yours.
Okay, I'll try to keep it short. Because you gotta love what you do. That's very important. You got to love what you do, and you got to know your worth. If can you go to somebody's house and charge them $10,000 for a bathroom remodel and you've never laid tile before? Of course not. So you gotta start small to learn stuff, or you gotta do a lot of practicing on your own house. But know your worth. I really think it's better to be really, really, really good at a few things and pretty decent at a lot of things. So find out what those things that you're really, really, really good at, and let that be your bread and butter, and the things that you're pretty decent at, let that be, how you come up, you handle the rest of the sustainability of your business. But my thing is, like I said, I said earlier that my very first external door install that I did was $350. And the door cost $285. So and it took me a lot longer to do those doors. But when I do a door now, that door's flush. That thing shuts like butter, and it locks, and you'll never have any problems with that door. It looks pristine. You don't see any seams. I caulk everything. But that same door that last guy paid $350 for, and now it's going to cost you $1,750. But you know what though? I use a program. I'm kind of sidetracked, but I'm trying to make this quick. Reach out. If you don't know how to do something, or you don't know how to charge, we use homewise.com. I use that a lot. I don't pay for a membership so I can print stuff or anything, but I'll go in there and say how much to lay backer board, or how much to lay tile, how much to replace a dishwasher. And they always have things in a range. This is the low, this is high. So I use the example of a ceiling fan. Let's say the low end is $100, the high end's $350. Well, if you're just now getting started and you're just started your business and you want to get your name established and get clientele, then you're going to have to, and you haven't installed that many ceiling fans, you're going to have to install a shit ton of $100 ceiling fans to get practice, to get good at it, to know what you're supposed to do and not do, but to also drum up your business. Now, once the word gets out, and those people start telling their friends about you, and their friends start telling other friends, and now you have a reputation of being a reliable, really good handyman. Then you can start raising your prices. But you can't expect to pay, your very first week of being a handyman. You cannot expect to go out there and get a $350 ceiling fan replacement. You got to start small because you have to build that reputation. The other thing that I will say to people is the Nextdoor app or TikTok or whatever, Thumbtack or whatever, or Facebook, or Craigslist. Don't rely on those for your business, because those people on Facebook Marketplace or whatever, they're looking for the cheapest guy out there. They're looking for lipstick on a pig type guy, or what they want is a Rolls Royce, but they want to pay a Geo Metro price for it. And so you may have to do that in the very beginning to get an established clientele, but let your reputation precede you. Go out there, spend the money, get you a website, push the Google reviews, and say, hey, I just did a job for you. Will you help me? I gave you such a great deal on the ceiling fan. Why don't you since I gave you such a good deal, will you do me a favor and go leave me a review? You can leave me an honest review. I'm not going to tell you what to say on there, but leave me a review. Because if you get enough people like this, yesterday we got 2 or 3 people that called, and Maria always asked them, well, how did you hear about us? And the last person she talked to said, well, I just Googled it. I Googled handyman near me, and you popped up, and then I read all your reviews. And because of all what everybody was saying about you on the reviews, I knew that I wanted to get a hold of this guy to come do my job, So when you first start out, you're going to have to start work hungry. You're going to have to take those jobs. But then once you get established, know your worth, know your niche, where these are the good things that I'm really good at, and I can afford to charge more because I'm really good at them. And Google it. What's the going rate? Homewise.com or Google. How much should I charge? Should I charge for whatever? And then after a while, you'll know. Okay, I know when if I do this, it's going to take this amount of time. So I know that I can start charging this much. I don't know. Now I'm rambling, but just be ready. Like you said this when we first started talking, that in fact, I told my wife the same thing. When you start your business, I told my wife, hey, for the first 2 years, you're not going to see me. I'm going to work, 15, 20-hour days or 12-hour days. And I'm going to be tired and exhausted, but we have to do the legwork. We got to put in the time. So if you're afraid of work, starting a business is not for you.
No.
But know
you need to be addicted to productivity.
Yeah, but know that once you put in your time and you do the hard work, for the first 2 or 3 years, Maria, I was maybe, she maybe sold me a total of 10 hours a week when I was awake, because by the time I get home, I eat, I go to bed because I'm tired. But now, once we get established, I got a little method going. Now she's starting to see me more often. And there's been a couple days where I was like, yeah, I'm not used to having you here during the day. Can you go do something? You're cramping my style, Yeah. But don't be afraid of work. But once you get it, know your worth. And like I said, there's 982 handyman in the metro area where I'm at. So what's going to set you apart? What's going to make you different from every other handyman out there? And the 2 things the first 2 things that you need to focus on is I'll call you back, and I show up. And when I show up when I say I'm going to show up. if I say I'm going to be there at 12, by God, I'm going to be there at 12. I'm not going to show up at 3:30 in the afternoon when I told you I'm going to be at 12. Call these people back and show up. Even if you know it's an estimate and you know that they're probably not going to do it, just you showing up will more times than not get you that job, just because the last 3 handymen didn't bother to show up.
Yeah.
So, call the people back and show up. And like you said earlier, if I'd say this is, and I did that a lot, just like that example of the door. If I say I'm going to charge you $350 to do this door, I can't go back and say, oh, I ran into this problem, so it's really $700. What I did is I learned that as a learning mistake and said, oh, I need to charge more money. They got this door for $350. The next guy, I charge a little bit more. If you say I'm going to do something, then do it. If you promise them you can do something, then do it. If you end up taking a lot longer to do the job or losing money, then chalk that up as a learning experience. Get better at what you're doing. But anyway, that's it, brother.
That's exactly right, man. There's no better advice to give right there than just do what you said you're going to do.
And instead of watching TikTok videos of race cars or scary memes or whatever, watch YouTube videos of how to fix stuff. Find somebody like yourself that can give you advice and give you tips and show you how to do stuff. Join a good Facebook group. Like if you're a handyman, there's a lot of groups out there that just want to bitch and moan about stuff or make fun of people that are trying to learn. But if you find good networking groups, join a BNI in your local area. You're going to get more business than you can handle. So anyway, brother, I could talk your ears off. I could be here for hours.
We're just going to have to do it again, man. We're going to have to do it again. I'm getting 5 beeps in a row now, or 5 flashes in a row, which means we're going to cut off the audio any second, but it's been well worth it. And I want to have you on again for sure, because I think we can just come back and talk about just bullshitting about jobs on the next one.
Ray, I appreciate you and what you do and what you represent. You're one of my mentors. Much respect, much love for you and what you do. I'd be more than happy to come on anytime you want me to.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Kelly. I feel the same way about you, sir.
All right. Thank you, brother.
Yes, sir. Bye.
All right, man. I'll talk to you later.